President Donald Trump has delivered one of his most forceful ultimatums yet to a group of close European allies: sell Greenland to the United States or face a wave of escalating tariffs on nearly all their exports to America. This dramatic escalation came in a lengthy post on his Truth Social platform over the weekend, where he laid out a clear timeline and specific rates. Starting February 1st, 2026, just 2 weeks from now, a 10% tariff will hit every type of goods coming into the U.S. from Denmark and 7 other nations: Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Finland. Then on June 1st, 2026, that rate jumps to 25%, and these charges will stay in effect indefinitely until a full, complete deal is signed for the outright purchase and transfer of Greenland's ownership to the United States. This is not a new idea for Trump. He has talked about wanting Greenland since his first term, calling it essential for national security and even joking about it at times. But now, in his second term, the push has turned into concrete action with deadlines, percentages, and a direct link to economic punishment. Greenland, this massive Arctic island, 3 times the size of Texas, but with only about 56,000 people, is technically part of the Kingdom of Denmark. It has wide self-rule, its own government, parliament, and control over most internal matters, including resources and culture. Yet Denmark handles foreign policy and defense. The island's people, mostly Inuit, value their autonomy deeply and have repeatedly said they are not interested in becoming part of another country. Trump's main argument centers on strategy in the far north. The Arctic is warming fast, opening new shipping routes, unlocking vast resources like rare earth minerals critical for technology, and creating competition among major powers. He says China and Russia are expanding their influence there, building bases, researching resources, and testing military capabilities. Greenland sits in a perfect spot, close to North America, with ice-free ports in summer, and ideal for radar, missile defense, or early warning systems against threats. The U.S. already has a long-standing defense agreement from 1951 allowing military presence like the Thule Air Base, but Trump insists only full ownership gives the security America needs to stay ahead. The announcement triggered immediate and sharp backlash across Europe. Leaders from the targeted countries spoke out quickly and in unison. French President Emmanuel Macron called the tariff threats unacceptable and said no intimidation would work. Not on Greenland, not on Ukraine, not anywhere. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer described the move as completely wrong, stressing that Greenland's future belongs to its people and Denmark alone. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and other EU officials warned that such actions undermine transatlantic trust and could start a dangerous downward spiral in relations. They pointed out that these are NATO allies, countries that stand together for collective defense, and using economic pressure like this risks weakening the alliance at a critical time. In response to Trump's claims about foreign activity in the Arctic, several of these nations, Denmark included, recently sent small contingents of troops to Greenland for what they call joint reconnaissance and training exercises. They frame it as bolstering shared NATO security in the region, exactly the kind of thing Trump has demanded in the past to counter Russia and China. Yet in his post, Trump turned that around, accusing them of playing a very dangerous game and using their presence as justification for the tariffs. Diplomatically, things have heated up fast. Just days before the post, senior officials from Denmark and Greenland met with Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington. Reports described parts of the talks as productive, discussions on Arctic cooperation and security, but no progress on the core issue of sovereignty or sale. Now, with the February deadline looming, European ambassadors are holding emergency meetings in Brussels to coordinate a response. Some EU figures, like Manfred Weber from the European People's Party, have even suggested that ongoing trade deals with the U.S. might be hard to approve while these threats hang over everything. At home in the U.S., the policy is deeply divisive. Recent polls show 70–75% of Americans oppose trying to acquire Greenland this way through tariffs or pressure. Even some in Trump's own party and supporter base express unease, worrying it alienates key NATO partners when unity is needed against real global challenges. Critics argue it damages America's image as a reliable ally, could trigger retaliatory tariffs from Europe, hurting American exporters, farmers, manufacturers, and risks sparking broader trade wars that raise prices for everyday goods. Senate Democrats have already signaled plans to introduce legislation blocking these tariffs to protect the economy and alliances. On the ground in Greenland and Denmark, public anger is boiling over. Over the weekend, thousands poured into the streets in Nuuk, the capital of Greenland, and cities like Copenhagen. Protesters waved Greenlandic flags, carried signs reading, "Greenland is not for sale, our home, our decision, and hands off our land." Chants of "Greenland, Greenland" echoed through snowy streets. Families marched together, young people spoke passionately about their future, and politicians joined in. Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen addressed the crowd in Nuuk, standing near the U.S. consulate, emphasizing that this is about identity, culture, self-determination, and pride, not something to be bought or traded. Similar rallies happened across Denmark, with people rejecting any notion of coercion. Looking ahead, the next few weeks could bring rapid changes. If no deal emerges, and Denmark and Greenland have shown zero willingness to sell, the tariffs kick in February went. That could disrupt supply chains for cars, machinery, food, pharmaceuticals, and more from these major U.S. trading partners. Europe might respond with countermeasures, escalating into a full trade conflict. Meanwhile, military tensions in the Arctic could rise if more forces are sent. Some observers even float extreme ideas, like Germany suggesting a boycott of the U.S.-hosted World Cup as leverage, though that's still talk. Trump shows no sign of backing down. He frames this as vital for America's survival in a changing world, protecting against rivals who want Arctic dominance. But it tests decades of transatlantic bonds built after World War II. NATO, the bedrock of Western security, faces strain. Allies question whether economic threats against each other undermine the promise of mutual defense. We are tracking every development closely. Statements from the White House, reactions in European capitals, voices from Greenland's people, and any shifts in diplomacy. This remains a highly fluid situation. Deadlines are approaching, positions are hardening, and the stakes in security, economy, and alliances are enormous. Many things could shift in the coming days and weeks. If this update helped you understand the full picture, please like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth coverage as the story evolves. Thank you for watching. Stay informed.